Good morning, everyone. I'm here today with Marinus, who's the branch manager for Terrain Tamer here in Cape Town, and this is their vehicle. It's a Hilux D4D, one of the most popular vehicles in Southern Africa and probably in Africa in many ways. A great vehicle that they bought to actually showcase some of their products and just fit them, test them, allow people to come and look and see what they're like fitted to a vehicle. So what have we all done to the car?
Oh, we've got quite an extensive, extensive list of parts that we fitted and that Terrain Tamer offers to the general public. So most of them is essential, and then there's also nice to haves that we fitted. But yeah, we did quite an extensive list of parts.
What are we trying to do here? We're trying to actually put parts on a vehicle that's going to enhance the reliability, for sure, improve some of its capabilities. It's not an uncapable vehicle, it's a very capable vehicle in standard form. But what Terrain Tamer have done with some of the parts that they supply is actually improved some of those parts to make them more efficient and actually look after the vehicle in some of the tough places we go to.
Yeah, we aim to produce parts stronger than OE.
Yeah.
So if it's a replacement part, then it will be stronger than the original equipment. And then we have some add-ons that Toyota actually should have put in the vehicle as a start to make sure that it runs reliable.
Okay, well those add-ons are nice for us to go through, and I think we're going to start here. There's always a big issue about fuel, and the biggest problem we have with fuel in some of the countries, well, South Africa's one, and going up into some of the more remote places, is you don't always get good quality fuel. And of course, once you pick up bad quality fuel, it's in your tank. And when it's in your tank, it's really a nightmare, because most of the OE tanks you cannot drain. So you now have a problem you've got to deal with. So adding an extra fuel filter is absolutely, for me, essential part of building an overland vehicle. Yeah. So we fitted your filter. Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so it's the flash loop fuel filter. It comes with a 30 micron filter. So there's a big discussion about what size microns you need in the filter and so on. So we found that 30 microns is the ideal size to assist with the water to flow down. You don't want the diesel to go too fast through the filter. You want it to take its time. So it is a bigger hole than your standard filter. Your standard filter is a 5 micron filter. But because the diesel flows slower through the filter, and the type of medium that we're using in the filter assists with the water hitting the medium and then running down into your bowl at the bottom. And then we also fitted a water sensor at the bottom. So as soon as there's water in your diesel, it will notify you that there's a problem.
And that's one of the common things you get. You know, water in fuel is really difficult to pick up. You know, quite honestly, once it's condensation in the tanks, it's condensation in the bowsers. And what people always talk about, where should you fit this filter? Should it be before the OE filter or after? Well, I've always, in all the vehicles I build, I fit it before. I want the fuel to come from the tank through this filter. It's got a clear polycarbonate bowl that you can see the actual filter, the fuel itself, and that allows me at a glance to open up my bonnet, look in at the filter and see if there's a problem, either contaminants or if it's water. As you said, the sensor will go off. Yeah. So yes, and then from there it flows through the normal OE filter.
Yeah. But you can immediately, as you said, it's a clear bowl at the bottom, so you can immediately, if you open up in the morning, you'll see, oh, but there's a build-up of dirt, and you can identify the problem beforehand. Yeah. Instead of where the OE filter is just a closed filter, you can't see anything. What's the quality of diesel flowing through it?
Yeah, and in many places, what I've said to people, carry a glass jar as well. You know, if you're picking up fuel from, let's say, very, very old tanks, it's an old town, the tanks look old, the fuel, even from drums, I often will have it put in a glass jar, and then I'll look to see if there's any separation before I put it in the tank, or I'll even carry a filter, a funnel, which also helps. So once it's gone in the tank, you're relying on this filter to do its work, and it does it very well. But if you don't do that, you really want to avoid the problem before it starts, and this is your backup, just to save you there. So a critical part, especially for overland vehicles. The next item we've put in is the radiator.
So at Terrain Tamer we developed a complete aluminium radiator, heavy duty radiator that we developed. So with the mind that we developed the radiator with, they had to replace their radiators every 8 months, because a normal radiator has got a plastic tank at the top and the bottom, and then an aluminium core. So plastic in normal use is not that bad, but through years and years of use you get a different expansion between the aluminium and the plastic, and then you get a fatigue crack in the plastic tank, and then your radiator fails, and you don't want that in the middle of nowhere. So or if you drive roads with a lot of corrugation and vibration and so on, the plastic tank can have like a fatigue crack or a crack in
especially if it's old. You know, if tanks are older, on high mileage vehicles we'll always change the radiators for sure, just because it's a precaution. And you know, while the old brass radiators were really good because you could repair them very easily, you know, aluminium these days has a much better cooling efficiency. And I think, like you say, with the tanks, and what I do like about these radiators is they're built-in sensors that actually go into the radiator top.
So a low coolant sensor.
So if the coolant drops, the level drops in the radiator, immediately it's going to warn you. And that's so good, because when that happens, you've got seconds before you damage your motor.
So we also use a friction welding process to manufacture the tank. So there's no actual welding on the material, so you don't change the properties. Because a lot of times you get these guys building aluminium tanks, and then they just weld the seams.
So explain friction welding to our guests.
So yeah, friction welding is basically a process where you rub the material at a very high frequency onto one another, and that fuses the material, instead of where you melt the material with a normal welding process, where you take it past its melting point and then it cools down again. And that changes the property of the material, the way it cools down. Also, if you weld it from one seam to the next, it's different than when you weld it in different sections. And then it also cools a lot of times because of the heat build up. So with the friction welding, there's no changing of the properties. It's a actual, you're fusing the material without changing the properties. So it's a much better way of much stronger to produce the radiator. And then it's got an 8% increase in cooling capacity. So a lot of guys putting...
That's really important, because you know what you're trying to do is you're trying to improve the cooling efficiency of the motor. And I think that's the key thing. Whenever you're looking at your motor and you're going to test it, and you've loaded it really heavy and you're going through these difficult conditions, cooling system takes a lot of strain. And anything you can do to improve the cooling of the motor and to reduce all the build-up of clutter, as I put it, on the front of the bull bar, where people put a lot of big spotlights and that. These days the LED lights are really small, and you can put small lights, reduce the blockage of the airflow, and improve the air going through the radiator.
A lot of times with overlanding and 4x4 driving or four-wheel driving, you don't drive at 120 kilometers an hour the whole time. So it does assist when you're going at 6 hours, 7 hours, and at a low rate of 30-40 kilometers per hour in deep sands in Botswana, where you can't drive that fast, and your engine is working actually quite hard the whole time.
You can't get rid of the heat quick enough, really, and I suppose that extra cooling
assists with that as well.
It's great product. And then also it comes with you get the radiator, and then you get the hose kit. Now that's something I do really love about Terrain, Tamer. I know I sing the praises often, but what I like is the kits come complete. So when you're going to do a radiator, you get all the hoses, top and bottom hose. If you're doing a heater hose kit for the motor, it's a complete kit, and that for me is just such a pleasure. So yeah, great bit of kit.
Yeah, and the packaging, I think you've mentioned the packaging in the past, but to get a bag where everything fits in, and then if you replace it, just put the old parts in there, or you can use it. It's a see-through bag.
Listen, I collect those bags. My clothing.
You can put anything in there, and it's nice, strong, reusable bags that you can get.
Which is it's thoughtful.